Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to University at Buffalo for our DEU Symposium. I want to welcome all of you here, and one of the great things is we have everyone in this room who's interested in the DEU model and some great collaborators in the future as we look to some of the needs throughout the day and potentially some research opportunities and collaborations both locally and in different places, because we do have people from Rochester here. I think that's the farthest we have people from, so thank you for coming. I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things so that you all know that the bathroom is located near the elevators or the stairs. So if you walk in that direction, if you have to get up, we do have a break scheduled in that's on your agenda, but we know how that goes. Please help yourself to food. We have plenty of food, coffee, and tea and water out in the hall if you need to get up at any time. And I just want to welcome everybody and talk about our planning committee, which includes Linda Scharf, who's at our registration table, who's been wonderful at helping us get the continuing nursing education credits that come along with the program, and we're happy to be able to offer that to everyone in the room. And she's going to say a few words in a minute. Dr. Linda Steeg, who will be speaking first. She's one of our faculty members. Dr. Donna Fabry, who's in the back there, wave hi everybody. She's our coordinator of pre-licensure programs at University of Buffalo School of Nursing, and Michelle McKay back here, who is our clinical coordinator. And you will hear from them throughout the day, and I'll introduce our panel at the end of the day when that gets closer. So welcome everyone, and I'm going to hand off the microphone to Linda Scharf here. And let me say, Linda Scharf is a former volunteer executive director for Western New York Professional Nurses Association, so people may know her name. She was also the director of nursing at Millard Fillmore, and we're director of patient services at VNA, or what was your title?
It actually was VP of Clinical Services, and I'm a past CEO of the Visiting Nursing Association. And I'm also a past Joint Commission surveyor, so you're looking at everyone's worst nightmare. So I'm the nurse planner for this presentation, though. So my job is to go over the disclosure form. It has been approved for contact hours by the multi-state division, the Northeast multi-state division, and the approval is according to the criteria for the American Nurses Credentialing Centers Commission on Accreditation. The learning outcome, this is a part of a cheat sheet that is to identify the structural framework components and strategies to implement and promote sustainability of the dedicated educational unit model. That might be on your evaluation. And you need to attend the entire event and complete an evaluation. The way the evaluation is going to be handled is after this presentation, I'm going to email you a link to SurveyMonkey, fill out the evaluation, and then I will email you the certificate. If you have any questions about the program, you can email me, or if there's something wrong on the certificate. A hint though, the name you write on the evaluation is what will show up on the certificate. So I still have people like that fill out just their first name. Well, then I have to kind of look through the attendance and find it out. Do you have any questions? There's no conflict of interest in this presentation, and there's no commercial support. That might be on the evaluation as well. And if you don't trust me, the link to SurveyMonkey is there, or I can give it to you on the registration desk, but you will get an email, and then just click the link and it takes you right to SurveyMonkey. I think it's my pleasure to introduce Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Linda and I are women of a certain age.
I'm your second worst nightmare. I haven't done half the things this lady has, though. So anyway, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And I have two microphones, but I don't need to. I would like to start our time together by just passing the mic and introducing yourself. Don't look like the deer in the headlights. Do you want me to start with Karen? She can break the ice.
I'm Michelle Mooney. I work at ECMC in the Primary Health Center as a nurse case manager.
Excellent.
And I'm actually doing the program with the DEU students.
Yeah, that would also be helpful. Just talk about whether you're here, just so we get a sense of who's here and what the needs of the group are. Do you have experience? Have you been involved in the DEU, or is this all going to be brand new information? That'll be really helpful for us to share.
I'm Karen Szymanski. I'm the Senior Vice President of Nursing at ECMC, and I'm excited because primary care is, we're expanding the DEU model there, and we're also going to be expanding in behavioral health. So Kelly Wilson is here to represent behavioral
Great.
health.
Oh, yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Montague. I'm the unit manager of 10 North, which is our transplant unit at ECMC. So I'm brand new to
Awesome.
the
Well,
DEU
welcome.
experience.
Great. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Durenda. I'm the Director of Education for MedSurg at ECMC. And I am also the coordinator for all of our clinical student experiences for nurses at ECMC. So we work with the DEUs.
Sounds like quite a job.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wilson. I am the Behavioral Health Clinical Manager of 5 South at ECMC, and we are excited to be taking DEU students.
Excellent. We're excited you're taking DEU students as well. Hi, Kim.
Hello, I'm Kim. I'm from New Jersey, William Patterson University.
She gets the prize for coming the furthest.
And I'm a new DNP as well. I did my research project on outcomes for transition to practice, how new graduates are finding out there, and the DEU makes a difference in their experiences. And so I'm here to learn more about evaluating and sustaining DEUs and expanding them, and looking to collaborate on research projects to measure outcomes.
Hi, I'm Cindy Anamy. So hi,
Cindy.
ECMC. I work at Duville College and we utilize DEUs, but prior to that I was in Memphis and we just used a different model for
Oh,
our
wonderful.
DEUs.
Oh, okay. So every place is a little different.
Just a little bit
Yeah,
different.
we're going to talk about that. Every unit is unique.
Good morning, I'm Emily Yergi. I'm a DEU faculty for the past 5 years. So I've had several DEU students, but we're looking to expand it to all of our clinical sites. We have 14 med-surg sites and only about half are DEUs.
Okay.
Cindy and I co-coordinate the med-surg clinical.
Cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Monique. I actually graduated School of Nursing in 2010. I don't know if you remember me. So that's when I was first introduced to the DEUs. And then right after school, I actually was a DEU nurse at Buff General for 3 years, but I just finished my master's. So I'd like to bring the DEU program to where I work now, which is Niagara Health in St. Catharines, Ontario.
Kathy, we can help her with that, right? Hopefully I'm going to fit through here. Hey.
Hello, I'm Jodi Limner. I'm a nursing instructor with Genesee Community College, and I am the only clinical instructor at GCC that has a DEU at ECMC, and the students love it. And they do so well, so I'm looking to link to other DEUs.
Well, thank you for making the hike, both to here and to bring your students to clinical at ECMC, because it is a great place.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Schwartz from Niagara University. I'm a clinical coordinator. We do have some DEU, but we'd like more. So I'm going to learn how to do that.
We can help you with that.
Good morning. My name is Pamela Jankicher from Niagara University. I'm a clinical instructor, and I don't usually do DEU, so I just started one this semester with Sabrina's help and wanted to learn more about it.
Hi.
I'm Maggie Coyne. Actually, I graduated 40 years ago from UB.
You, Linda, and I.
Yeah, there we are. Always wanted to come back to school. Here I am. I am right now in the role of the interim dean of the School of Nursing at Niagara, and I'm here with this great team to learn and to support them.
Thank you. Be patient with me. I have short legs. It's the most exercise I've gotten in weeks.
Hi, I'm Amy Johnston. I'm a clinical instructor at St. John Fisher School. We are currently have a DEU program there, which we do at the hospital that I work at. So I just want to see what we can do as far as expanding more.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Borden. I teach fundamentals at St. John Fisher as well in Rochester. We currently do not have a DEU for fundamentals, so I'm here to see if that's something we should try.
Dr. Faber can help you with that.
Okay.
And I'm Kylie Abraham. I'm also from St. John Fisher College. I teach primarily our juniors in their maternal child program, and I coordinate all their clinicals, which is a lot of fun. And currently we don't have a DEU, and we've been hearing a lot about how we maybe can do that. So we're here to learn more about that.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Katherine Grams, and I'm from St. John Fisher also, and I teach Med-Surg, and I'm also a clinical coordinator, and we're the only ones currently, where Amy is, that has a DEU, and I'm new to the role, and I'm learning about DEU. This is my mentor who knows about DEU more.
Oh, great. You need a name tag. Oh, you got
I got
Beth.
I'm Beth Kiss. I'm a professor in the Wegman School of Nursing at St. John Fisher College. And we do have DEUs at our junior level and at our senior level, but expanding them into some of our other courses that haven't experienced them is something we're interested in learning about. And then definitely the sustainability of them, because we found that as units change, some of the DEUs fall apart with new nurse managers, and how can we maintain and sustain those relationships?
We're going to be talking about the importance of planned expansion, because it's really tempting to just want to take off, and you can't. So we'll be talking about that.
Hello, I'm Michelle Tyre. I'm an instructor of clinical nursing at the University of Rochester School of Nursing, and I also work on a medicine unit. I'm pretty brand new to the DEU model, but Jessica Lipinski over here, I'm with her. She's going to tell you more about her project and why we're here with her.
Jessica and I have played phone tag for months, so this is great that you're finally here, Jessica.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. I'm Jessica Lipinski. I started off as a DEU nurse, which has got me interested in teaching, and I currently work at the University of Rochester, and I'm the clinical faculty for our one DEU that we have, and now I'm the coordinator, and in my graduate program I did a lot of research in the DEU, so we're looking to expand it and learn how to do that the appropriate way.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah.
We think it's the appropriate way, but.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Rutigliano. I'm also clinical faculty at the U of R, and as she's looking to expand the DEU models in our hospitals, I maybe would be a person that would be interested in doing that with her. So.
Okay, thank you, Dee Dee. We'll quickly do the people in the back of the room. It's like being in church.
Oh, I'm Donna Faber again, and I teach fundamentals to the juniors, and then I also teach leadership, and I am coordinator of all the clinical courses.
Cathy Man, the Assistant Dean of Undergraduate Studies here at the School of Nursing. I have been a former DEU faculty member in clinical also, so it's always nice to have people who have their boots on the ground talking as well as administrators. So luckily I have a little bit of both.
Yes, you do.
Hi, I'm Margaret Mayer. I'm a clinical instructor for UB at a DEU at Kenmore Mercy Hospital, and I've been really enjoying it. I started last semester.
Ellen Swan, nurse manager at Kenmore Mercy Hospital, and we have a DEU unit for the UB students.
Hi, I'm Michelle McKay. I'm the undergraduate clinical coordinator here at UB School of Nursing, and a lot of my role is making sure these DEUs are running in the model we want and that everybody's on board with it, and always looking to develop and promote more DEUs on different units.
Excellent. We had one lady join us. Let me pass the microphone back. We're just introducing ourselves and what we do and why we're here to learn about the DEU.
Thank you. My name is Sheila Gallinger. I'm associate professor at Duville College, but I practice on the Canadian side, and we don't have any dedicated education units, so I'm very interested to hear about the model. I actually proposed this a while back to those who work in long-term care, because I think it would be really helpful for recruitment and retention, and that's a big issue in the province of Ontario. Plus, you know, from an advanced practice perspective, I wonder if there's an opportunity in primary care to support the growth of geriatric practice in primary care and in the community. So a few things that interest me.
I know the University of Portland long-term care was one of the units that they originally piloted and started the implementation of the model back in 2000, whatever year they started, 2003. They had a long-term care unit. So I can look back and hopefully recall the name of the gentleman at the time that was there. But either way, we haven't branched into long-term care yet, but it's my passion. So we could hopefully connect and internationally. This is cool. Okay. All right. So thank you for sharing that. I can put this one down. Okay. All right. So every good program has objectives. And so upon completion of our symposium, these are the things that hopefully you will be able to have learned and be able to accomplish in each of your settings. I don't like reading to people. So what I'm here to talk about for the next 40 minutes or so, and Donna's going to be our timekeeper to keep me honest, because I could talk wallpaper off the wall, especially about this. I'm going to talk about the origin of the DEU, how the model got started, and how various schools and institutions of learning have implemented it along with their service partners. So let's get started. The first dedicated education unit was started by Dr. Kay Edgecombe in Australia in 1997. And we actually, you'll see a picture of Dr. Edgecombe in another slide or so. We actually were fortunate enough to have her come to our School of Nursing in about 2010. We implemented our first DEU model and we piloted it in 2007, but we'll get to that. But anyway, how did the model get to the United States? Well, in the early 2000s, the University of Portland was challenged by the Oregon State Board of Nursing. And they were told, we need to do something differently in nursing education, and we need to prepare more nurses because we have a real shortage in this state. And what we're doing right now is not meeting the needs of our healthcare consumers. So they challenged the University of Portland School of Nursing to find a different way of educating nurses in their programs. And it was the University of Portland that learned about the DEU model that was being implemented in Flinders since the late 90s. So it was UP that brought the model to the United States. And they did that in about 2003. In the summer of 2007, the dean of our School of Nursing at the time invited another faculty who had retired and I to go to University of Portland to learn about the DEU model because she got this email and she thought it sounded like something that might be worth looking into for the School of Nursing at UB. So Dr. Maddie Rhodes, some of you know Dr. Maddie Rhodes, certainly Karen Szymanski has worked with Maddie for years, who is now retired and couldn't be here today. She and I flew to Oregon for, it was like a 6-hour flight, for actually a 4-hour symposium just like this on a Saturday. So we flew for 12 hours to go to a conference for 4 hours. But we were so excited when we came back with what we had learned. We presented what we had learned in that, it was May or June that summer, the beginning of the summer. We presented it to our all-faculty meeting in August of 2007 when we had gotten back. And we said, we presented the model and we challenged our faculty and said, look, we have to pilot this model. Because if we don't do it, some other very smart school around here is going to do it first. And we wanted to be first because we're like that. So we looked at the clinical settings that we had been at traditionally for years, and we selected 2 or 3. Initially, we selected 2. 2 faculty working with Karen at ECMC had been there for years. Maddie Rhodes was one, Claire Myers was another. And they had very strong established relationships with the nurses there. They were doing traditional model, but they had these established relationships. And so we decided to pilot 2 units at ECMC that are still, by the way, in existence today as DEUs. And I took one group to Millard Gates, where Linda Scharf used to be VP for nursing, because I had taken my students there in a traditional model for years. And that's where we piloted the model. So that's how the model got to UB. We piloted the model, and we didn't start it right away, because what you're going to see as we go through the steps and the stages is it takes a lot of planning and relationship building and buy-in to make this model work and be successful and be sustainable. So Dr. Kay Edgecombe is pictured right here. This is this lady right here. She is the lady that started it at the University of Flinders. This is Dr. Maddie Rhodes, for those who know her. And these were actually a group of our DEU students. This is some of our faculty who have since retired and left us, and some who have rejoined us. So, but this was just a sampling of some of the students at the Bulla lecture that had been involved in the DEU model. So what is a DEU? Every good presentation starts out with a definition, right? So the DEU is an educational model of collaboration. And what it's intended to do is provide an optimal teaching and learning environment. And that word environment is really important. Dedicated education unit is an environment of learning that supports the students' learning through the interactions of the students with expert nurses, all the members of the healthcare team. And not only does it stop at the unit level, but this is a really important component. And it's so good that some of you in the room are in nursing leadership positions, both clinically and educationally, because we need the buy-in of the leadership team, the administrators, because without the buy-in, the model is not going to be successful. So what the DEU model is intended to do is transform the way student nurses learn the role of being registered nurses. Because we know that traditionally there has been a big gap between academia and what we used to call reality, the real world of nursing. And what this model is intended to do is bridge that gap and make that learning, make that learning real. Okay, we do that by fostering experiential learning opportunities for the students at the bedside, working with those expert registered nurses. We call that experiential learning. And what we're focused on is helping the students early on in their education appreciate what is the role and the responsibility of the nurse, and how do nurses think, and how do they develop critical thinking and clinical reasoning, and eventually develop this sense of salience that Benner called it, the sense of salience, where they just intuitively know, last time I saw a patient looking like this is what I had to do to promote a good outcome, or this is what I had to do to prevent something bad. And this is what nurses, our graduate nurses, need to learn. Because what you are telling us is the nurses are coming out of school, they're able to pass the boards, but there seems to be a gap in how they can critically think at the bedside, on their feet, and intervene to save patients. This model is intended to address that gap. And we believe since 2007, when we've been doing it, that we've done a good job of bridging that gap. We have work to do, and we have quantitative data to be able to demonstrate, because to date we don't have that yet. We got a lot of qualitative stuff, but we don't have any quantitative. And that's what our challenge is. As we go through the model later, we'll get to that very important stage. But I thought this quote in 2012 by one of our students said it all. Now in 2012, we implemented it in 2008. I'm gonna just estimate, we may have had like 6 or 7 DEUs in 2012. And every student by 2012 had at least one DEU experience in their 4 semesters at UB, at least one. And what that student in 2012 said is, I've learned so much from my DEU nurse, I think every student should have a DEU experience. That's a quote from a student. To me, that says it all. So what is the DEU model? Well, I like to call the DEU model a model of authentic collaboration between academia and service. Okay, between the theoretical classroom and the clinical practice settings. And I believe that for the DEU model to be successful, that there has to be some very critical elements for success of this model. And they are shared goals. We all got to be on the same page. We all got to be headed in the same direction. And that direction is having nurses that are qualified and competent to rescue our patients. Okay, we have to have, this is really important, we have to have shared goals, but we also have to have mutual respect and trust in each other. Because I remember when we first started the DEU, it was like being on a honeymoon. Everything was wonderful. It was. I just kept waiting for the foundation to crack, because I'm thinking, someone's gonna go wrong, you know? And so you have to have mutual respect, and you have to trust that one partner is gonna hold up the other partner, and that we're going to come to common grounds, and we're going to embrace our interdependence on each other. And I think that's one of the big issues that was lacking in a traditional model, is that we didn't see ourselves as all in this together. And in this model, this environment of learning, we're all in this together. You have to have very open communication, because sometimes you have to have some tough conversations, both the DEU nurses with their students, as well as sometimes the DEU nurses with the clinical faculty. Like, you know, you have to be able to say, this student is really struggling and I need help figuring out what's the best way to help the student be successful. You have to be very flexible. My goodness, I think that's probably one of the most important features, because just because a particular unit can have the staffing that they have to have enough DEU nurses every week for our students, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way. We know that staffing is in flux all the time. There may be days where you're scheduled to implement the DEU model and you don't have enough staff. You don't have enough DEU nurses. So there has to be flexibility on the part of the clinical faculty that's assigned to that to say, okay, I can help out here. And that is a very important piece of DEU success. And Michelle's going to talk about that later on. That whole feeling that we're all in this boat together. And then most importantly, as an element of success for the DEU model, it has to be sustainable. So you have to, because it costs money to do this. It costs the organizations money to pay their nurses to work with our students. And we're a state institution. We don't have the pleasure of having the ability to financially help support the healthcare services, clinical settings that support our students' learning. So we have to find other ways to give back to our service partners. But we have to develop what I call the win-win-win-win. The win-win-win initially were the 3 wins. It's got to be a winning learning environment for the students. It's got to be a winning environment for those nurses, those expert nurses working with our students. We have to make it worth their while. They have to have some kind of feeling that they're accomplishing something and growing professionally from this, because it's additional work for them. And there has to be a win in it for academia, because remember, go back to the University of Portland, they were challenged by their state board to increase the number of students that they could get through programs and get graduated because of the nursing shortage. So theoretically, a functioning DEU unit should take us away from that 1 faculty to 8 student model, and it should increase the ability of us to take students in our programs and get them clinical experiences. So no longer do we have to stay with that 1 to 8 model. I believe in New York State, and this varies from state to state, so it might be a little different for your state, Kim, our ratio in a DEU model can be 1 to 12, but you have to work with your state board of nursing for that. So I like to say that the key elements for success of a DEU model to implement and, most importantly, sustain it, it's like maintaining a successful marriage. It's about give and take, and it's usually more giving than taking. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. Why would you want to do this? Well, whether you're implementing it in 2019 or 2020, or you implemented it in 2007 and you want to expand it, you always have to look for those shared challenges as well as shared opportunities between academia and service. So from a service perspective, this model should help recruit graduate nurses to your healthcare organizations, because if they've had a positive learning experience on a DEU at your healthcare system, they're more likely to want to come and work there. Okay, it should help retain those seasoned expert nurses, because they're getting a sense of they're actually sharing what they know and their expertise with the up and coming generation of nurses. It's very rewarding to feel like you're nurturing others and passing it on. And in theory, it should translate to decreased costs of turnover. Nurses should stay in there longer. The seasoned nurses should be more happy with their positions and not be looking for other opportunities elsewhere. And those graduate nurses who we know tend to leave their positions in the first 9 months because it's so scary in those first 2 years, they're likely to have an easier transition time. And that's where Kim's work is what Kim's work is looking at. From an academic perspective, I talked about this. It should help us addressing increased numbers of students that we can take to clinical. It should help us address the faculty shortage that we have. You know, we have a nursing shortage. We have a really more significant faculty shortage. It does help over time with the competition of clinical placement sites. We're hoping that that's getting better. And the biggest piece of where we need to go from here now is translating the evidence that this qualitatively works, qualitatively is a win-win-win, into translating the 4th win, which is we believe that educating nurses with experienced nurses at the bedside, improving that experiential learning, will translate into what you've identified for us as that major gap of being able to address critical thinking, clinical reasoning, and developing that sense of salience so that we can rescue our patients. And that's the 4th win. It's translating it into improved patient outcomes. So the win-win-win, we've talked about all of this already, so I'm not going to spend any more time on that. Let's talk about the model that we use here at the UB School of Nursing. And essentially we have what I call 4 stages. And the 4 stages are that beginning, that building a solid foundation, that time that it took to develop those traditional relationships and translate those into a collaboration. That's a really important piece. And that's why I said to somebody when they were talking about we want to expand, it's got to be planned expansion, because you got to have a solid foundation or your foundation's going to crack, just like when you build a house. Establishing synergistic relationships, that's those critical elements coming together and every day working together to maintain those authentic collaborations. Now, stage 3 is where we've got some work to do. We have some qualitative outcome measures that we've done here at UB, and there's been a lot of qualitative research done at UP and other schools around the country that are now implementing it. And what we're seeing is qualitatively things look good. People feel good, and we'll go through the research in a few minutes. But what we're finding is that it's not translated quantitatively yet. So that's where our challenge is for, in stage 3, the evaluation of the outcome measures. That's where our challenges are, because it's those quantitative outcome measures that are going to sustain this model. Okay, and if we want to expand and continue expanding, we've gone from the 3 that we piloted in 2007, we now have 19 DEUs in various clinical settings. We started on med-surg units. We started with just our seniors. And we're now in primary care, we're at ECMC in primary care, we're at the VA in primary care, we are in every healthcare system across Western New York. We're at hospice. We had the first hospice DEU in the country, started by Joanne Chimera, who was the clinical faculty at hospice. I have the opportunity to be there now. It's wonderful. Okay, so those are our 4 stages. This is a model. This is our concept model of the dedicated education unit. And essentially, it's a picture that just kind of summarizes everything that I just said related to the various roles and players and how we all work together to build those solid foundations, to establish those synergistic relationships, to evaluate those outcomes, and then to further expand and sustain the model, to improve and translate the 3 outcomes that we have: student experience, DEU nurse experience, and leadership, service leadership, and faculty leadership. We know that those three sectors are happy with it qualitatively. We need to translate that into quantitative outcome measures and translate that, most importantly, into patient outcomes. So if we took the time to go through each stage, within each stage there's steps. And stage 1 is that solid foundation where you identify those partners and they have to establish buy-in, and it has to be from the grassroots, DEU nurses at the bedside, to their top leadership. Everybody has to believe in the model, and it's not just the nursing team, it's the whole team. Because remember, the DEU is an environment. Okay. Step 2 is planning. So to plan, any project that you're going to take on needs a plan, needs a timeline. We spent that time between 2007, 2008, having numerous meetings with the team, building relationships, identifying unit champions, assigning roles and responsibilities, and figure out who's going to do what. It takes a lot to develop a solid foundation before you're going to implement anything. You just can't go into this. You can't say, boom, wave your magic wand, you're going to be a DEU. It's not how it works. Stage 2 is developing synergistic relationships, and that's taking those 5 critical elements and living them. Living that collegiality, that trust, that interdependence. It's total team involvement. Again, it's a unit. It's an unit of it's an environment of learning, okay? It's a unit. It takes a village. It's based on the premise that it takes a village to raise a nurse. It's not just about the nurse and that clinical faculty member. It's not just about the nurse and the DEU nurse that they're working with. It's about the whole team. It takes a village. And I worked at Gates, and at the time we had a nursing leader who believed that it needed to be 24/7. And that was a bit of a challenge. But she believed that in her building, the DEU unit wasn't just from 7 to 3. We were working 8-hour shifts at the time. So one semester, more than one semester, I implemented the DEU unit on days. Well, they had 2 12-hour shifts. So we did it on days from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. Because she believed in the importance of it being a 24/7 kind of culture. And she believed, and it was true, it really did help promote the environment that was supportive of student learning. All staff were involved. Clearly, when you go to implement this, it's not all peaches and cream, it's not all, it can't be a Pollyanna. This is going to affect your staffing. And then that brings on scheduling issues, and that brings on, sometimes in some environments, union issues. You got to have a lot of flexibility and be able to work with that. So maybe you're not going to be able to do clinical on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Maybe you're going to have to look at Wednesdays and Saturdays, or splitting it up and do Saturday DEU rotations. You got to be flexible. We got to work together. Again, this information we've already spoken to, that whole synergistic relationship, the collaborations, the cheerleaders, the grassroots, and that whole concept that this model supports the ongoing professional development, not only of our students before they graduate, but also those DEU nurses, where they're engaged in lifelong learning, because they're learning every day. The students are learning from them, but we have DEU nurses tell us, I've learned a lot from my student as well. So stage 3 is developing those outcome measures, evaluating those outcome measures. And we know from an academic perspective, we need to increase enrollment. We need to better utilize our limited faculty resources. We also need to recruit new faculty to replace faculty that are leaving. And we also, most importantly, we have to be concerned about our NCLEX pass rates. Okay, that's what we do, because we all want nurses, we all want people that are graduating from our programs to be safe and competent and to be able to get a nursing license to practice. From a student perspective, that whole learning by experience, the lived experience of being the nurse while I'm in the nursing school, so that I don't have to count on some magical switch flipping once I graduate and say, oh my God, I am the nurse, yikes. Okay, we believe that it increases the student's satisfaction with their clinical learning, because now they're not one of 8 students waiting for one clinical faculty and waiting their turn. They're boots to the ground. Once they walk into that clinical unit and team up with their nurse, they're learning from the first second that they're there. And they're learning for the entire shift that they're with that DEU nurse. And we think that a positive learning experience by our students 1 year will help us recruit future students and therefore future nurses. From a service perspective, we've touched on those. We've touched on, hopefully, it will translate to decreased orientation times, decreased turnover, decreased loss during the first 2 years of that transition, that turnover. We hope that it translates into longer, more satisfied professional nurses staying in their roles. So we hope it decreases attrition as well. Patient outcomes is where we're really looking at focusing. We need to be able to translate, does this dedicated education learning environment actually benefit our patients? Because that's what we're all in this for, is taking care of patients. So the ongoing journey, and we're going to talk about all these different stages throughout the morning. I'm just laying the foundation of the pieces. And each one of the presenters today is going to take a different component of this whole model and talk about how we've implemented it. So the ongoing journey for those of you that are thinking about starting or thinking about expanding is begin at the beginning. Please begin at the beginning. Each journey is unique. You have to stay true to the model, the critical elements of the model, but you have to be flexible and you have to make every unit unique because every unit is unique. Different players, different focus. So there's no two units that look the same. I've said it over and over again, additional considerations for the future would be to look at translating that fourth win. I seem to have, missed something. My last couple of pages. Well, I can speak to it. Didn't get in here. Okay, all right. No, because this is going to the next one. Ah, this is the slide I was looking for. Sorry. I want to summarize the current evidence that we do have. I told you that, and I preface this by saying, this is now, and it's not, you know, we've come a long way in the 12 years that we've been implementing this. So we've got some further work to do with the quantitative stuff, but we know that from students' perspective, they perceive the DEU as a positive learning environment. They very much acknowledge the mentoring and the individualized learning, and they really believe that the DEU experience helps them feel more proficient and have an easier time with transitioning into independent practice. And those were outcomes that Nick Osaka is one of the pioneers of the model at the University of Portland. So two of those articles that are up there are from her work with her colleagues at U of P. On nursing's perspective, they surveyed the nurses, and this is qualitatively, they found that the nurses were more satisfied, very satisfied by watching the students grow over time during their clinical experience. And they felt that they themselves benefited, that their practice stayed at the top of their game. Because whenever you're working with somebody, they keep you at the top of your game because you don't want, you just only want to share best practice with them. Okay, and so that helped them in their overall development as well. Clinical outcomes, George et al. In 2017 showed again that he demonstrated that there was increased self-efficacy with both models. But he thought it was greater in the students that experienced the DEU model. Again, very qualitative stuff. And Seimer in 2015, this is the literature that upsets me and that keeps me coming to work every day. Because this particular study showed no statistically significant difference in the outcomes between students that had gone through a traditional model versus a DEU model. But we all know that statistical significance is statistical significance. The model still has clinical practice significance. And for me as a clinician, that's good enough. That's all I care about. I don't care if statistically it doesn't show anything yet. It will. I believe it will. Okay, so that's where we are right now, and that's why we need to really pursue that qualitative outcomes measurement of the model. So I'm going to summarize now and just say key takeaways from this piece of the presentation about the model: its implementation, its planned expansion, and its interventions that are going to promote sustainability. It takes a village to raise a nurse. It's very important that we start at the beginning with every DEU, recognizing that every DEU, although it stays true to the model, is unique. And it will change from semester to semester. It can change from week to week, but you're still staying true to the model and you're working collaboratively. Okay. Sustainability is built on that interdependence, that authentic collaboration, and sustainability is all about translating those 4 wins: the student, the patient, the clinical faculty, and the service partner as well. Okay, that is all I have for this piece so far. Kathy, were we going to do questions at the end or? Okay. Does anybody have a burning question about the model that can't wait? Okay. Okay. The question is, do we have the data to demonstrate the numbers related to how many DEU student nurses that have gone into clinical practice settings as graduate nurses? How many of them have stayed? We don't have that data yet. That's very important data to start collecting. Again, we have qualitative data that supports that, and there's one of them in the room. One of our students graduated in 2010. She became a DEU nurse 2 years after starting in her position, and that's why she became passionate. So we do know that. We know that there are a lot of former DEU students out there in the Western New York area that are now DEU nurses. We don't have numbers yet, and that's what we need.